Harry Potter. The Death Day Party. Chapter 8, The Death Day Party. October arrived, spreading a damp chill of regression into the castle. Madame Pomfrey, the nurse, was kept busy by a sudden spate of cold among the staff and students. Her pep potion worked instantly, but left the drinker smoking at the ears for several hours afterward. Ginny Weasley, who had been looking pale, was bullied into taking some by Percy. The steam pouring from under her vivid hair gave the impression her whole head was on fire. Raindrops the size of bullets thundered on the castle windows for days on end. The lake rose. The flower beds turned into muddy streams. And Hagrid's pumpkins swelled to the size of garden sheds. Oliver Wood's enthusiasm for regular training sessions, however, was lacking, which was why Harry was to be found late one stormy Saturday afternoon. A few days before Halloween, he returned to Gryffindor Tower, drenched to the skin and spluttered with mud. Welcome into the two. Even aside from rain and wind, it hadn't been a happy practice session. Fred and George, who had been spying on the Slytherin team, had seen for themselves the speed of those new Nimbus 2001s. They reported that the Slytherin team was no more than 7 greenish pillars shooting through the air like missiles. As Harry squelched along the deserted corridor, he came across somebody who looked just as preoccupied as he was. Nearly headless Nick. Ghost of the Gryffindor Tower was staring morosely out of the window, muttering under his breath, "Don't fulfill the requirements. Half an inch, if that." "Hello, Nick." Hello, said nearly headless Nick, starting and looking around. He wore a dashing plumed hat on his long curly hair, and a tunic with a ruff, which concealed the fact that his neck was almost completely severed. He was pale as smoke, and Harry could see right through him to the dark sky and torrential rain outside. "You troubled, young Potter?" said Nick, folding a transparent letter as he spoke, and tucking it inside his doublet. So the ghosts can write ghost letters to each other? Okay, that's new. Considering they can't actually touch anything. So how would that theoretically work? I'm just saying. "So do you," said Harry. "Ah," said nearly had the Nick with waving out in your hand. "A matter of no importance. It's not as though I really want to join. Doctors I'd apply, but apparently I don't fulfill requirements." In spite of his airy tone, there was a great look of bitterness on his face. "But you would think, wouldn't you?" he erupted suddenly, pulling the letter back out of his pocket, "that getting hit 45 times with a knife was a blunt act to qualify you to join the Headless Hunt." "Oh, yes," said Harry, who was obviously supposed to agree. "I mean, nobody wishes more than I do that it had been all quick and clean, and the head had come off properly. I mean, it would have saved me a great deal of pain and ridicule. However," nearly had his neck shook his letter and read furiously, "we can only accept huntsmen whose heads have been part of the company." Let me start that over, Chet. "We can only accept huntsmen whose heads have parted company with the Buckleys. You will appreciate that it would be impossible otherwise for members to participate in hunt activities such as horseback head jiggling and head polo. It is with a great regret, therefore, that I must inform you that you do not fulfill our requirements. With very best wishes, Sir Patrick Delaney Pottermore." Fuming, nearly headless Nick stuffed the letter away. Half an inch of skin. Inside me, you're holding my neck on, Harry. Most people think it's getting beheaded. Oh no. It's not enough for say a properly decapitated boy. Nearly headless Nick took several deep breaths and then said, in a far calmer tone, So, what's bothering you? Anything I can do? No, said Harry. Not unless you know where we can get 7 free News 2001 for a match and slip. The rest of Harry's sentence was drowned out by a high-pitched mewing from somewhere near his ankles. He looked down and found himself gazing into a pair of lamp-like yellow eyes. It was Mrs. Norris, the skeletal gray cat who used by the caretaker, Argus Filch, as a sort of deputy in his endless battle against students. You better get out here, Harry, said Nick quickly. Filch isn't in a good mood. He's got the flu. Some thirders accidentally plastered frog brains all over the ceiling in Dungeon 5. He's been cleaning all morning. What up, Deacon? Welcome in, welcome in. And if he sees you dripping mud all over the place. Right, said Harry, backing away from the accusing stare of Mrs. Norris, but not quickly enough. Drawn to the spot by the mysterious power that seemed to connect him with his foul cat, Argus Filch burst suddenly through the tapestry to Harry's right, wheezing and looking wildly about for the rule breaker. There was a quick tartan scarf bound around his head, and his nose was unusually purple. Filth! He shouted. His jowls was a quiver, his eyes popping alarmingly as he pointed at the muddy puddle that had dripped from Harry's Daves-Raves. Mess and muck everywhere! I've had enough of it! I tell you, follow me, Potter! So Harry waved a gloomy goodbye to nearly have a sniff, and followed Filch back downstairs, doubling the number of muddy footprints on the floor. Harry had never been inside Filch's office before. It was a place most people avoided. Hey, welcome to the floor. Harry had never seen. You can come in. I'm reading. I do not. So Harry waved a gloomy goodbye and nearly had a snake, and followed Filch back downstairs, doubling the number of muddy footprints on the floor. Harry had never been inside Filch's office before. It was a place most students avoided. The room was dingy and windowless, lit by a single oil lamp dangling from the new low ceiling. I don't know why I said that. A faint smell of fried fish lingered about the place. Wooden filing cabinets stood around the walls. From their labels, Harry could see that they contained details of every pupil Filch had ever punished. You know, I used to pronounce pupil pupil until I heard it spoken aloud. I'm like, huh, it's pupil. Gotcha. Fred and George Weasley had an entire drawer to themselves. Only a drawer? That's all? Only a drawer? Shit, I figured they'd have a whole filing cabinet themselves. They're only like 1 year ahead of Harry and Ron, I think. Maybe 2 years ahead. Harry could see that they contained details of every a highly polished collection of chains and manacles hung on the wall behind Filch's desk. It was common knowledge that he was always begging them to let him suspend students by the ankles from the ceiling. Filch grabbed a quill from a pot on his desk and began shuffling around for his parchment. Don't! He muttered fiercely. Great sizzling dragon booties, frog brains, rat intestines. I've had enough of it. Make an example where it's a form. Yes! He retrieved a large roll of parchment from his desk drawer and stretched it out in front of him, dipping his long black bill into the ink pot. Name? Harry Potter. Crane? It was only a bit of mud, said Harry. It's only a bit of mud to you, boy. But to me, it's an extra hour scrubbing, shouted Filch, a drip shivering unpleasantly at the end of his bulbous nose. Crane? Befouling in the castle, suggested Hanson seconds. Dabbing at his stringy nose, Filch squinted unpleasantly at Harry, who waited with bated breath for his sentence to fall. But as Filch blurted his quill, there was a great bang on the ceiling of the office, which made the oil lamp rattle. Peeves! Filch roared, flinging down his quill in a transport rage. I'll have you this time. I'll have you! And without a backward glance at Harry, Filch ran flat-footed from the office. Mrs. Norris streaking alongside him. Peeves was the school poltergeist, a grinning, airborne menace who lived to cause havoc and distress. Harry didn't much like Peeves. He couldn't help feeling grateful for his timing. Hopefully, whatever Peeves had done, and it sounded as though he'd wrecked something very big this time. Only the banishing cabinet, which Malfoy will have to repair in the 6th book. One of the sharks goes from Harry, thinking that he should probably wait for Filch to come back. Harry sank into a moth-eaten chair next to the desk. There was only one thing on it, apart from its half-completed form: a large, glossy, purple envelope with silver writing on the front. With a quick glance at the door to check that Filch wasn't on his way back, Harry picked up the envelope and read, Quick Spell. Correspondence course in beginner's magic. Intrigued, Harry flicked the envelope open and pulled out the sheaf of parchment inside. More curly silver writing on the front page said, Feel out of step in the world of modern magic. Find yourself making excuses not to perform simple spells. Ever been taunted for your awful wand work? There is an answer! Quick Spell is an all-new, fail-safe, quick result, easy learning course. Hundreds of witches and wizards have benefited from a quick spell method. Madam Z, Nettles of something, I can't really read that because I can't really read cursive myself, writes, I had no memory for incantations, and my potions were family joke. Now, after that quick spell course, I am the center of attention at parties, threatening to beg me for my recipe of Scallion solutions. Warlock DJ Prod of Didsbed says, My wife used to sneer at my feeble charms, but 1 month into your fabulous quick spell course, I succeeded in turning her into a yak. Thank you, Quick Spell. Fascinated, Harry thumbed through the rest of the quick envelope's contents. Why on earth did Filch want a quick spell course? Did this mean he wasn't a proper wizard? Here's just a reading. Lesson 1. Holding your wand. Some useful tips. When shuffling footsteps outside told him Filch was coming back. Stuffing the parchment back into the envelope, Harry threw it back onto the desk just as the door opened. Filch was looking triumphant. That vanishing cabinet was extremely valuable, he was saying briefly to Mrs. Norris. We'll have Peeves up this time, my sweet. His eyes fell on Harry and then darted a quick spell envelope, which, Harry realized too late, was lying 2 feet away from where it had started. Filch's pasty face went brick red. Harry braced himself for a tidal wave of fury. Filch hobbled across to his desk, snatched open the envelope, threw it into a drawer. Did you read? He sputtered. No, Harry lied quickly. Filch's knotty hands were twisting together. If I thought you knew my private, not the smile for a friend, be that as it may, however. Harry was staring at him, alarmed. Filch had never looked madder. His eyes were popping. A tick was going in one of his pouchy cheeks, and the towering scurf did not help. Very well, go. Don't breathe a word. Not that. However, if you didn't read, go now. That's right, Peeves up report. Go! Amazed at his luck, Harry sped out of the office, up the corridor, and back upstairs. To escape Filch, his office without punishment, was probably some kind of school record. Harry, did it work? Harry Headless-Neck came gliding out of the classroom. Behind him, Harry could see the wreckage of a large black and gold cabinet that appeared to have dropped from a great height. I persuaded Peeves to crash it right over Filch's office, said Nick eagerly. God, I want to distract him. Was that you? Said Harry briefly. Yeah, it worked. I didn't even get detention. Thanks, Nick. They set off up the corridor together. Near the Headless-Neck, Harry noticed, was still holding Sir Patrick's ejection order. I wish there was something I could do for you about the headless hunt, Harry said. Nearly Headless-Neck stopped in his tracks, and Harry walked right through him. We wish you had. It was like stepping through an icy shower. But there is something you could do for me, said Nick excitedly. Harry, would I be asking too much? But no, you won't want to. What is it? Well, this Halloween will be my 500th birthday, death day. 500th death day, said Nearly Headless-Neck, drawing himself up and looking dignified. Oh, said Harry. Not sure whether he should be looking sorry half at this. Right. I'm holding a party down in one of the Rainier dungeons. Friends will be coming from all over the country. It would be such an honor if you would attend. Mr. Weasley and Mrs. Granger would be welcome too, of course. But I dare say you'd rather go to a school feast? He watched Harry on tenterhooks. No, I'll come. My dear boy had a Potter at my death day party? And he hesitated too, looking excited. Do you think you could possibly mention to Sir Patrick how very frightening and impressive you find him? Of course, said Harry. Nearly Headless-Neck beamed at him. A death day party? Said Hermione keenly when Harry had changed at last and joined her and Ron in the common room. I bet there aren't many living people who can say they've been to one of those. It'll be fascinating. Why would anyone want to celebrate the day they died? Said Ron. He was halfway through his potion so much and grumpy. Sounds so depressing to me. Rain was still lashing in the windows. Things were now inky black, but inside all looked bright and cheerful. The firelight glowed over the countless squishy armchairs, where people sat reading, talking, doing homework, or, in the case of Fred and George Weasley, trying to find out what would happen if we fed a filibuster firework to a salamander. Fred had rescued the brilliant orange fire-dwelling wizard from a charismatic creatures class. It was now smoldering gently on the table, surrounded by a knot of curious people. Harry was at the point in time Ron and Hermione, about Filch and the Quickspell course, when the salamander suddenly whizzed into the air, emitting loud sparks and bangs as it whirled wildly around the room. The sight of Percy, bellowing himself hoarse after riding George, a spectacular display of tangerine stars showering from the salamander's mouth, and its escape into the fire, with accompanying explosions, drove both Filch and the Quickspell from Harry's mind. By the time Halloween arrived, Harry was regretting his rash promise to go to the Death Day party. The rest of the school was happily anticipating the Halloween feast. The Great Hall had been decorated with the usual wild bats. Hagrid's vast pumpkins had been carved into lanterns, large enough for 3 men to sit on. And there were rumors that Dumbledore had booked a troupe of dancing skeletons for entertainment. A promise is a promise, Hermione reminded Harry bossily. You said you'd go to the Death Day party. So at 7 o'clock, Harry, Ron, and Hermione walked straight past the doorway to the packed Great Hall, which was glittering invitingly with gold plates and candles. Distracted, their steps were directed to the steps, instead toward the dungeons. The passageway leading to the nearly headless Nick's party had been lined with candles too, though the effect was far from cheerful. These were long, thin, jet-black tapers, all burning bright blue, casting a dim, ghostly light, even over their own living faces. The temperature dropped with every step they took. Harry shivered and drew his robes tightly around him. He heard what sounded like 1,000 fingernails scraping an enormous blackboard. Is that supposed to be music? Ron whispered. He turned the corner and saw a nearly headless Nick standing at the doorway, hung with black velvet drapes. My dear friends, he said mournfully, welcome, welcome. So pleased you could come. He swept off his plumed hat and bowed and went inside. It was an incredible sight. The dungeon was full of hundreds of pearly white, translucent people, mostly drifting around a crowded dance floor, waltzing to a dreadful, quivering sound, dirty and musical. Songs, played by an orchestra on a raised, black-draped platform. A chandelier overhead blazed in midnight blue with 1,000 more black candles. Their breath rose in a mist before them, like stepping into a freezer. Shall we have a look around? Harry suggested, wanting to warm up his feet. Be careful not to walk through anyone, said Ron nervously. They set off around the edge of the dance floor. They passed a group of gloomy nuns, a wide man wearing chains, and a fat guard. A cheerful Hufflepuff ghost, who was talking to a knight with an arrow sticking out of his forehead. Harry wasn't surprised to see that the Bloody Baron, the gaunt, staring slithering ghost, covered in silver bloodstains, was being given a wide berth by the other ghosts. Oh no, said Hermione, stopping abruptly. Turn back. We don't want to talk to Moaning Myrtle. Who? Said Harry as they backtracked quickly. She haunts one of the toilets on the girls' bathrooms on the first floor, said Hermione. She haunts a toilet? Yes. It's been out of order all year, but she keeps having tantrums and flooding the place. I never went in there anyway if I could avoid it. It's awful trying not to have a pee while having a wet at you. Look, food, said Ron. On the other side of the dungeon was a long table, also covered in black velvet. They approached it eagerly, but next moment had stopped dead in their tracks, horrified. The smell was quite disgusting. Large, rotten fish were laid on handsome silver platters. Cakes, burned charcoal black, were heaped on salvers. There was a great maggoty haggis, slab of cheesy covered in furry green mold, and in a private place, an enormous gray cake in the shape of a tombstone, tar-like icing forming the words, Sir Nicholas de Mumsey Porkington, died 1st October, 1492. Harry watched, amazed, as the portly ghost approached the table, crouched low, and walked through it. His mouth held wide so it passed through one stinking sandwich. Can you taste it if you walk through it? Harry answered. Almost, said the ghost sadly, and he drifted away. I expect they let it to rot. I expect they let it to rot to give it a stronger flavor, said Hermione knowingly, pinching her nose and leaning closer to her to look at the cultured haggis. No, it feels sick, said Ron. They had barely turned around, however, when a little man swooped up from underneath the table and came to a halt in midair before them. Hello, Peeves, said Harry cautiously. Unlike the ghosts around them, Peeves the poltergeist was the very reverse of pale and transparent. He was wearing a bright orange party hat, a revolving bow tie, and a broad grin on his wide, wicked face. Nibbles, he said sweetly, offering them a bowl of peanuts covered in fungus. No, thanks. Had you talking about poor Myrtle? Said Peeves, his eyes dancing. Rude you are about poor Myrtle. Well, I'll be at claps. Welcome in, welcome in. He took a deep breath and bellowed. Oi! Myrtle! Oh no, please don't tell us that. She'd be really upset, Hermione whispered frantically. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. Hello, Myrtle. This black ghost of a girl had glided over. Teacher Dave, what's up? Sure, got that right. Yes, sir. This black ghost of a girl had glided over. She had the glumest face Harry had ever seen, half hidden behind lank hair and thick, pearly spectacles. What? She said sulkily. How are you, Myrtle? Said Hermione in a falsely bright voice. It's nice to see you after the toilet. Myrtle sniffed. Miss Granger was just talking about you, said Peeves slyly in Myrtle's ears. Just saying how nice you look tonight, said Hermione, glaring at Peeves. Myrtle eyed Hermione suspiciously. You're making fun of me, she said, silver tears welling in her small see-through eyes. No, honestly, didn't I just say how nice Myrtle's looking? Said Hermione, nudging Harry and Ron with painful nerves. Oh yeah, she did. Don't lie to me, Myrtle gasped, tears now flooding down her face while Peeves chuckled happily over his shoulder. Do you think I don't know what people call me behind my back? Fat Myrtle, ugly Myrtle, miserable, moaning, mopey Myrtle. You forgot me, Pimply. Peeves hissed in her ear. Moaning Myrtle burst into angry sobs and yelled from the dungeon, fled from the dungeons. Peeves shot after her, pelting her moldy penis, yelling, Pimply! Pimply! Oh dear, said Hermione sadly. The elderly headless nigger now drifted toward them through the crowd, enjoying themselves. Oh yes, they laughed. Not about turn then, said the headless nigger proudly. The Wailing Widow came all the way from Kent. It's nearly time for my speech. I better go and warn the orchestra. The orchestra, however, stopped playing at the very moment. They, and everyone else in the dance, fell silent, looking around in excitement as a hunting horn punched sound. "Oh, here we go," said Nearly Headless Nick bitterly. Through the dungeon wall burst a dungeon burst a dozen ghost horses, each ridden by a headless horseman. The assembly clapped wildly. Harry started to clap too, but stopped quickly at the sight of Nick's face. The horses galloped into the middle of the dance floor and halted, rearing and plunging. At the front of the pack was a large ghost, who held his bearded head under his arm, from which position he was blowing the horn. The ghost leapt down, lifted his head high in the air, so he could see over the crowd. Everyone laughed, and strode over to Nearly Headless Nick, squashing his head back onto his neck. "Nick!" he roared. "How are you? Head still hanging in there?" He gave a hearty guffaw and clapped Nearly Headless Nick on the shoulder. "Welcome, Patrick," said Nick stiffly. "Why once?" said Sir Patrick, spotting Harry, Ron, and Hermione, giving a huge, fake jump of astonishment, so that his head fell off again. The crowd howled with laughter. "Very amusing," said Nearly Headless Nick darkly. "Don't mind Nick," shouted Sir Patrick's head down from the floor. "Still upset we won't let him join the hunt. But I'm going to say, look at this fellow. I think," said Harry hurriedly, at a meaningful. "Nick's very frightening and ha!" yelled Sir Patrick's head. "Bet he asked you to say it. If I could have everyone's attention, it's time for my speech," said Nearly Headless Nick loudly, striding welcoming who was joined. Striding toward a podium and climbing into an icy blue spotlight. "My late lamented lords, ladies, and gentlemen, it was my great sorrow, but nobody heard much more. Sir Patrick and the rest of the Headless Hunt had started a game of head hockey, and the crowd was turning to watch. Nearly Headless Nick tried vainly to recapture his audience, but gave up as Sir Patrick's head went sailing past him to loud cheers. Harry is very cold by now, not to mention hungry. "Can't stand much more of this," Ron muttered, his teeth chattering as the orchestra ground back into action. The ghost swept back onto the dance floor. "Let's go," Harry agreed. They backed toward the door, nodding and beaming at anyone who looked at them. And a minute later were hurrying back up the passageway, full of black candles. "It might not be finished yet," said Ron hopefully, leading the way toward the steps up to the entrance hall. Then Harry heard it. Kill. It was the same voice, the same cold, murderous voice he had heard in Uncle's office. He stumbled to a halt, clutching at the stone wall, listening with all of his might, looking around, squinting up and down the dimly lit passageway. "Harry, what are you... It's the voice again. Shut up, Emily. So hungry. For so long." "Listen," said Harry urgently. Ron and Hermione first, watching him. "Kill? Time to kill?" The voice was growing fainter. Harry's shoulders was moving away, moving upward. A picture of fear and excitement gripped him as he stared at the dark ceiling. How could it be moving upward? Was it a phantom? Did him stone ceilings didn't matter? "This way!" he shouted, and he began to run up the stairs, into the entrance hall. It was no good. Hope didn't hear anything here. The babble of talk from the Halloween feast was echoing out of the great hall. Harry sprinted up the marble staircase to the first floor. Ron and Hermione clattered behind him. Harry, what are we... Shh! Harry strained his ears. Distantly, from the floor above, growing fainter still, he heard the voice. I smell blood! I smell blood! His stomach hurt. It's going to kill someone! He shouted, and ignoring Ron's and Hermione's bewildered faces. He ran up the stairs, next flight of steps, 3 at a time, trying to listen over his head on pounding footsteps. Harry hurtled around the hole of the second floor, Ron and Hermione panting behind him, not stopping until he turned a corner into the last deserted passage. Harry, what was all that about? Said Ron, wiping sweat off his face. I couldn't hear anything. But Hermione gave a sudden gasp, pointing down the corner. Look! Something was shining on the wall ahead. They approached slowly, squinting through the darkness. Foot-high words had been daubed on the wallpaper, between 2 windows, shimmering in the light cast by the flaming torches. The Chamber of Secrets has been opened. Enemies of the air, beware. What's that thing hanging underneath? Said Ron, a slight quiver in his voice. As they edged nearer, Harry almost slipped. There was a large puddle of water on the floor. Ron and Hermione grabbed him, and they inched toward the message, eyes fixed on a dark shadow beneath it. All 3 of them realized what it was at once, and looked backward with a splash. Mrs. Norris, the caretaker's cat, was hanging by her tail from the porch bracket. She was stiff as a board, her eyes wide and staring. For a few seconds they didn't move. Then Ron said, Let's get out of here. Shall I try and help? Harry began awkwardly. Trust me, said Ron. We don't want to be found here. But it was too late. A rumble, as though distant thunder, told them that the feast had just ended. From either end of the corridor, where they stood, came the sound of hundreds of feet climbing the stairs, and a loud, happy talk of well-fed people. The next moments, students were crashing into the passage from both ends. The chatter, the bustle, the noise died, settling as Harry in the front spotted the hanging cat. Harry, Ron, and Hermione stood alone in the middle of the corridor. A silence fell among the mass of students pressing forward to the grisly sight. Then someone shouted through the choir, Enemies of the air, beware! You'll be next, mudbloods! It was Draco Malfoy. He had pushed to the front of the crowd, his cold eyes alive, his usually bloodless face flushed, as he grinned at the sight of the hanging and muddy wildcat. Huh. Alright, chat, and that concludes Chapter 8. Next time I read, it'll be Chapter 9, A Writing on the Wall, which will be about another 20 pages. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Appreciate the 4 likes I got on chat. Appreciate the 1 person who stayed in here while I was live. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Daves-Raves out. Please. Oh, make sure, before you guys do go, to make sure y'all smash that like button, man. And more important, make sure y'all, oh yes, subscribe if you're new to the channel. And, of course, after you subscribe, and if you are subscribed, hit that notification bell so you get all notices. So you know whenever I go live. Until next time, everyone, Daves-Raves out. Peace.